Malaysia, and that's where we connect. All of us connect through Malaysia because we were students at USM. In 2012, Safi was co-founder and director of LAMP Lamp Enterprise, which was a startup company at the University Malaysia, Kelantan, involving business activities for students. In 2014, he was the co-founder and director of KDF Enterprise, which was a student body entrepreneurship program under the Ministry of International Trade and Industries. 2017, my goodness, founder and partner of 𝐻𝐿 Ventures, which was a food manufacturing company in Malaysia. And in 2020, the expansion and director of 𝐻𝐿 Foods Industry. So I would like to turn it over now to Safi. If you're ready, shall we begin?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kim, for the nice introduction. Thank you very much for Abdul Kadir for inviting me to Samale Institute for this talk. Fellow audience, fellow participants, I will not be sharing slides. I will be using my camera instead. So if you guys wanted to pin the camera bigger so you can see the slides that are going to be projected there, it will be much more easier for you to see the content throughout this webinar. So without further ado, I'll be briefly talking. Just now, Kim already introduced me quite briefly, so I'll be explaining in regards to my educational background, as well as some more activities that I founded throughout the past years. So as fellow participants already know, I am currently the director of business development in Al-Kifayah Food Industry Sdn Bhd Limited, which is a food manufacturing company and also a group of company in Malaysia. For my academic qualification, I was in the same master's as Abdul Kadir, which is master's degree in sustainable development practice from University Science Malaysia, and then USM. And then for my bachelor degree was in applied science, in sustainable science. So basically my area of expertise is not entrepreneurship, it's more on water sciences and coastal development, data analysis, and so on and so forth. But since I have pioneered few companies back, so I'll be giving a bit of on entrepreneurships. So this is a bit of my papers and reports that I've been doing in the past years. Mostly it is involving environmental impact assessment, environmental management plan, and then sustainable finances, and so on and so forth. So that will be all about my brief introduction. So we should move on to our webinar for today. So the webinar for today that we'll be talking about is the title that been given is Building Back Better, Promoting MSMEs for a more sustainable and resilient economy. So throughout this webinar, I'll be talking to 4 categories of topics which cater to the objective of today's webinar, basically. So the first topics that we are going to cater is entrepreneurship skills and innovation, which is the main agenda of today's webinar, because the objective that we wanted to fellow participant for today is the need for entrepreneurship skills and innovation in yourself and businesses over back in Somalia. And then the second one will be an awareness and knowledge on MSMEs programs. However, I will not be dictating it into Somalia locally. I'll be talking it in a global perspective and how MSMEs works in Malaysia and how can it work in Somalia also. And then the third one to be which are going to tell you that the power of digital transformation is what improvising entrepreneurial, how entrepreneurs and enterprises can contribute to eradications of poverty. All right, without further ado, we're going to go to the first topic, which is the skills and innovation as an entrepreneur. What kind of skills that you need and what kind of innovation that you can do as an entrepreneur. Okay. However, the first one that we are going to talk about is what is the difference between a businessman and versus an entrepreneur, right? So business and entrepreneur is mainly two different things. However, they are interconnected in a few ways. For example, an entrepreneur is someone that conceive a unique idea, someone that create a unique idea or concept to a new business. So meaning that a new product, for example. But a businessman, they carry out whatever they are in markets. For example, trading. If you want to do trading for, let's say, for example, clothing, you are not the one who are creating the clothes. Instead, you are the one who purchase it from elsewhere and then resell it. So as a reseller, you might be a businessman, but you are not an entrepreneur per se. So an entrepreneur is someone who sees the rarity in market, whatever there are problems in the market, and then you wanted to solve the problem in the market, you enter a business, so you create a new product for the business. So that is what an entrepreneur is. So in comparison, we can see that the market position for a businessman, they are a market player, but an entrepreneur is a market leader. Instead of a player, they are the leader of the industry. And then the nature of a businessman is calculative. So they calculate each and every move in order to gain more profit, while an entrepreneur is more on intuitive. So meaning that based on your intuition yourself, you create a new product and you try to make that new product to goes to the market. So when we talk about risk, of course, a businessman have very low risk because entering an existing market. Whereas entrepreneur, you have a high risk because you are entering a new market. So the methods for a businessman is a bit conventional, and whereas the methods for an entrepreneur is unconventional. So as an example, the way that we see nowadays, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these are considered as an entrepreneur because they bring new products to the market. While perhaps you can see people in Walmart, for example, the CEO of Walmart, for example, they are focusing on business that are existing business rather than creating new business. So this is an example of how different a business and then, right? And then we are going to move on to the 5 key aspects. Okay, this is the most important things in this webinar. So this is the 5 key aspect on how to become an entrepreneur. So basically, based on my experience and the from the created, uh, I found out that make you to become either entrepreneur on how you not objective. This is subjective to what my ideas on the key aspect to become an entrepreneur. So the first one is ideas and ambitions that create your vision as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you will always start from an idea and always be driven by your ambition. What kind of ambition do you have? Do you want to become someone well known, appear in the fortunes that are driving you to become a successful entrepreneur? And then the second one is the nature of being confident. So an entrepreneur need to be confident because the confident is what promote risk taking. Risk taking is an obvious nature of an entrepreneur because you need to take a risk to create a product, to enter a market and an unknown market, and then to make your product well known. And then the third one is careful and aware of your surrounding because it's going to nurture your planning on how to become a successful business entrepreneur and how to create a successful company in the future. And then the fourth one is friendship and networking, which is very important. For example, like today, one who invited me for today's exposure and workshop, so that it is an opportunity to not just create public relation, but also to market your product. And then the fifth one, and last but not least, is learning and experience from the process to encourage your development of your company. The development of your company will be encouraged by your learning experience throughout the process to become an entrepreneur. So bear with me, I'm going to go one by one for each and every point here. So first point, ideas it always come from a problem that are in the market. For example, if you have water shortage problems, what can you do? What kind of technology can you innovate in order to solve that problem? So that is ideas. So it always comes from a problem statement. Despite in research boundaries, in research sector, or what we call a development sector in a company, it always comes to a problem. So from problem, you will have solutions. So these solutions is what promotes your ideas. So your ideas is how you realize your solutions, because sometimes the solution can be theoretical. It is not practical. So your ideas is what make it more practical in order to solve the problems. So from this, it drives your ambitions to maybe not just solving the problem, maybe to be rich and famous, for example. That is the common way of youngsters nowadays, what they wanted to go in. So that is what make your objective, your mission as your objectives, right? Objective in order for your company to know where it's going to be in the next 10 years or in the next 20 years, for example. And then lastly is your vision. What is your main goal, for example? So I'm going to give a bit of my experience. What is the common problem here in Malaysia is that we have halal food industry, but we do not have frozen halal food, instant halal food such as burger, for example. We depended burger to a very big market such as McDonald's, KFC. So the existing market that we have for a burger in Malaysia is manipulated by only one industry. So from there, we thought that we should give a little bit of competitions and a little bit of innovation. So what we do is we promote original equipment manufacturing instead. So we took an idea of how car manufacturer provide OEM parts for their vendors. For example, Toyota, they have their own OEM vendors. So what we do is we select few customers that are willing to have our OEM product, but that one is in food manufacturing. So we have that kind of problem. So our solution is how to do it. So we had tested our product for 1.5 years before we get to market the product. So just imagine, it took us 1.5 years to develop that product, and then now we are expanding, and we control almost 30% of the market share. So that is how the problem exists and solutions and the ideas wanted to promote. So the bigger vision here is to provide necessity OEM manufacturing for food for every single small industry, micro industry that they wanted to join in. So they do not have to think about too many steps or take too many years into developing one single product. They can use our services so we can develop that product for them. So this is an example of the first key aspect, which is ideas and ambition. Create your vision and mission for your company. And then the second one, confident, promote risk-taking. If you see in the funnel there are 3 items, which is team, product, and investors. First, you need to be confident to your team, because the team is the one who help you develop your product. And then you need to be confident of your product. You need to know whether your product can be a success, or a product need to be revamped, or a product need to be you need to table it on the table, and then you need to discuss it back. So you need to be confident of the product, because these 2 things is what make you is what going to help you to convince your investors. Because I know that if you want to build a startup company, it is pretty hard to get an allocations of funding. So in order to do that, you need to go to your investors. I will talk about investors in a minute. How can we find investors? But you need to understand, if you are not confident to yourself, to your product, to your company, and to your team, how can you convince your investor that your business model is viable? So these are the second key aspect that as an entrepreneur you need to have as an entrepreneur. And then we're going to move on to the third one, which is a bit lengthy because this is a planning stage. You need to be careful and aware to nurture planning. So in planning stage, I would say the best way, if you see here, I put executive summary as the first place. So you need to understand what is executive summary. Executive summary is where you find, again, your vision and your mission and your objective of your company in order to sell your product. That is one of the aspect in the executive summary. And then you need to know roughly who your target market is. And then from there, you can find the first point, which is your operations. Because in your operation, to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to have a successful operations in your company. So in order to govern this, you need to have a very good directors inside. You don't even need to have 10 directors. You can only have like 1 or 2 directors. It's enough. Because these are the head that govern the policy of the company, that maintaining the vision and mission of the company in order to be successful. But you need to hire respective or professional executive in your company for them to run your company, running it in the forms of top management. And then last but not least, the most important crucial item in operations is labor workers. For example, in our industry, in my company itself, we have problems in labor workers because we understand that in Malaysia, there are too many Malaysians goes to universities, so everybody got their degrees and diplomas, for example. So when it happened, if you introduce labor industry, so when you introduce industry, you need to depend on foreign workers, for example. For us, we had to depend on foreign workers because Malaysian does not want to work in the labor industry. So we need to think out of the box on how to manage this. Another way of doing it is canceling out labor and creating automation for your industries. So instead of using hard labor, using automation instead. However, automations require a much bigger investment, which is for expansion, the purpose for expansion purpose is okay. But if you are a startup company, you need to rethink your strategies on how to get these three factors of operation in your company. And then we move on to your finance, for example. Okay, finance, there are lots of finance summary out there. There are lots of financial planning out there. But I just give you 5 basics financing or finance planning that you can do in your company. The first one is your capital expenditure. Before you start up your company, you need to know what is your capital expenditure, meaning that how much are you going to spend to start your company, to start your product. So this is the first one, which is your model to start your company. And then from the capital expenditure, what you can do is you can find venture capital company, which I will talk later in MSME tools, venture capital's company or a bank or a government body or non-government organization that can help you to gain a little bit of capital expenditure. From here, what you can do is you need to plan what your assets need to be in your company. Do not take this is based on my experience. What I found out here in Malaysia, a lot of young entrepreneurs, when they talk about assets, everybody want to buy a car. So for me, car is not an asset. It is a depreciation assets, an asset that are depreciating over the years. So it is not well enough thought that this is your assets. So basically your assets is going to be some sort of machines or factories or land or shop lot, for example. These are your assets because this is what going to make your product. So once you finalize your assets, you need to take a look at what liability that you can gain. Because if you want to purchase an asset, you cannot just simply purchase it with cash. You need to have some loans, for example. So these are your liability. You need to control or make your liability a little bit small in order for you to run your startup company better. And then you need to have a long-term creditors, for example, because we know that raw materials are expensive nowadays. So what you can do is you can talk to your vendors or your suppliers, asking them for creditors. This is part of your liabilities. Asking them for credits for, let's say, 3 months of payment or 4 months of payment, where you can roll back your money when you're able to sell your product. And by 4 months, you can pay your creditors at that time. So this is the liability, some of the liability that you need to look at. And then the fourth one is the cost. Costs and expenses are two different things. Cost is the one that are related to your product, while expenses are expenses that are not related to your product. Cost, for example, is manufacturing costs. labor costs, packaging costs, delivery costs. These are what cost your product. For example, your product can be the cost of your product can be $2, and then you can sell it for $4. So you have a profit of $2, for example. But expenses, however, are things that are not related to your product. For example, remuneration for your directors, for your executive, because they are not the one who making the product. The labor workers are the one who are making the product. Executive basically govern the body. So these are expenses. So normally, if the cost is higher than expenses, it is okay. But if expenses is higher than the cost, then your company might need to sit down and rethink about your financial plan. So these are the 5 basics item in the financial plan. And then we move on to the marketing. Marketing strategy is basically you need to identify your market share. For example, when we wanted to enter the market, we need to take a look at existing competitors, existing company, how many percent of the market that they hold. For example, let's say in Malaysia, we have one company called 𝐼𝐴MAS. 𝐼𝐴MAS company holds maybe 60 or 70% of the share of fried chicken. And then when we wanted to enter the market, we need to know whether or not we can shake that 70%, or we'll be or we will be left behind with only 5% of the market. So we know that as a startup company, it's a bit hard for you to catch up to a leading industries. That's why your product need to be innovative and interesting so that you can shape the market and control the market share to you. For example, in the United States, when people talk about Apple, for example, it's a $1 trillion company. Why is it Apple can become a $1 trillion company? Is because most of their product is secluded in their own environment. So basically, they control almost 100% of, almost more than 90% of the market share. If you want to compare to Microsoft or Android, for example, as Android was being given to a lot of other companies. Motorola use Android, for example. Samsung use Android, for example. So they have diversified the market share to them. That's why Apple remain a $1 trillion company. That is an example in the United States. And last but not least is research and development. Your product need to have a thorough research and development in order to make it work. Like I said before, our product took us 1.5 years to make in order for us to, before we can market it outside. So just imagine that long we take to research and develop our own product. But I'll be talking about research and development in the 5th key aspect of today's presentations. All right. And then we are moving forward to the 4th and the 5th key aspect. Okay. The 4th key aspect is friendship and networking that leads to marketing and public relations. So basically, when you finish up, maybe some of you are currently a university's student, or maybe a university's alumni or a school alumni, or you have a past companies that you have been working on, keep the contact close. Because these acquaintances that you make throughout the years in universities, in school, and in companies that you work for is what create your networking. Because from here, for example, some people in your university's alumni are one experts in product development. So what you can utilize, if you are a very, very thoughtful entrepreneur, what you can utilize is you can use their services throughout your networking in order to develop your product, for example. Because not all of us here are an expert on one thing. For example, I have no expertise in food industry. But since we know few people who are in food development, so we take them with us, join our company in order for us to develop our own product. So this is one of the example of how networking is very important. Another example is that networking can promote your product indirectly. For example, like I know Abdul Kadir today, I can promote, but since we do not export our product outside, but if let's say we are exporting our product to Somalia, what I can do is I can tell Abdul Kadir to promote my product since we know each other. So this is how networking works. And I am currently in a business proposal for another business of mine, which will be established maybe around 2.5 years later. It is research institutions for networking purposes. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to use some of our networks to create a research institute to promote research in Malaysia. Because nowadays, Malaysia, when we are talking about research in Malaysia, mostly they goes to either the government sector or the government university. So there are no private sectors that are pioneering this. So this is one of my ambitions that I am trying to develop here in this country. So and then another example is that from networking, you can find a good legal firm and a good accounting firm to help moderate your company's paperwork. Because to become an entrepreneur, it sounds easy, but it is also comes with a lot of paperworks to be presented or to be shown to your investors, to your government agencies, to your non-governmental organizations. So if you have good connections with legal firms and accounting firm, it can help you propel your business much more smoothly. And then the fifth key aspect, which is learning and experience to encourage development, is using a pilot survey. Before you sell your product to the market, you need to do some pilot. So you need to sell the product either in a small quantity. You might not be able to sell it. You need to give it as a free samples to a small community to see how the product do in the market, how the product evaluations in the market. And then you need to see also the product acceptance, whether people accept your product or not. So this is what pilot research and developments are. And then after you do that, maybe 6 months, 7 months in the market, you need to do a survey. You need to understand how your product can be changed, how much of the market share have you gained, and how can you improve your product to make it better. And from this, you need to have a very technical analysis and also a finance analysis. In technical aspect, you need to see the quality of the product. Either within 6 or 7 months is the quality drop, or you need to improve the quality. And then is the product affordable to the market or not, or people complaining about the price of the product. And then whether the product have an interesting user experience towards the consumers. And then when we talk about the finance analysis, we talk about the profit margin. Maybe before this, you wanted to sell your product a little bit cheaper, you talk about 20% of profit margin. And then when your product become more and more in volume, you can either raise it to 30% or maybe change it a little bit. Maybe lower the profit margin in order to give a lot of people access to your product. So this kind of analysis is one of the key factors that you need to have as an entrepreneur. Of course, it sounds like everything is a bit of hard work. Why one person need to do this? No, what I meant is that you need to have this part of the skills so that you can utilize these skills to other people. Because when you employ people under you, you need to be able to understand the surface of it, or else you will not be able to lead your team, to lead your company to the directions that you want it to be. So this is the 5 key aspect. Again, I would like to repeat the 5 key aspects. Is the first one, ideas and ambitions that create your vision and missions. It is very important for you to analyze this, and then you need to be confident. So I hope by the end of this talk, some of you have questions. So that is the steps that you need to be confident in, because if you do not have questions, means that you are fully understand the whole topic, or you are not confident at all to speak. So you need to be confident. And then the third one, you need to be careful and always aware about your surrounding, because there are a lot of people, opportunities out there that always trying to grab your innovation as well. And then the fourth one, you need to maintain your friendship circles and your networking, because who knows that this might be the way that you do your marketing. And then last but not least, you need to learn from the experience, because it's going to encourage development of your company. So this is the 5 key aspects. So we are moving on to the second chapter, which is MSMEs tools and what is the focus of MSMEs. Okay, MSMEs stand for micro, small, medium enterprises. In Malaysia, normally we just use small and medium enterprises. But in the world, when it is known as micro, small, medium enterprises, because there are micro industry out there that are operating in a small scales, maybe 3 workers in one company. So this is very important, because you grow from one
Probably less than 10 employees.
yeah, less than 10 employees, yes.
Yeah.
So this what I call methods, right? These ways of evolving from one sector to another sector, it takes you a long time, but you need to have that mindset that it will take you somewhere. Because when we start our company, I start my company back in 2012, the Lamb Enterprise is a very small company. It's a student body company without nothing. We just do a photocopy and stuff, but we do a little bit of innovations, because no lecturers wanted to do a photocopy. Go to the photocopy shop themselves. So what we do is we do this delivery kind of systems, so they can order it online, and we can prepare the photocopy of your lecture notes, your assignment, for example, and then send it over to the respective lecturers. So that is how I started the business. I started with among of friends, 6 of us, I guess. And then the business are booming. And then now the business still existing, but I am no longer the directors, I'm just the founder. I already give the business to my juniors to operate it back in the universities. So this is what entrepreneurs do, because you are not necessarily be in that same company all over again, because you need to make the company grow and give it to someone else for them to pilot it. You can become the shareholder of the company, but you need to take a look at other products that you can do. So other innovations that you can do, and then create another company, for example. All right. So the 5 key focuses of micro, small, medium enterprises program, they mostly focuses on access to financing. So basically they are promoting financing, and then they focus on human capital development, market access, innovation and technology adoptions, infrastructure. So I go this one by one. Access to financing. Okay, there are 2 ways of access to financing. One is loans. Basically, you loaned a sum of money, and then maybe $100,000, and by the period of time, you need to pay back that $100,000. Another one is incubation program, or meaning that they provide you with a model capital for let's say at least for 5 years. They give you this sum of money for you to develop your product. So once your product are successful enough to go to the market, you don't have to pay back to them, but you need to give them a little bit of the shares in your company. These sometimes people call this venture capitals company. So a company that would like to invest, but they are not necessarily taking control over your company. You are still the one who founder of the company, but you need their help in terms of financing. So this is one access to financing. When we talk about access to financing, either two things: loans or a venture capital. So these two things. And then when we talk about human capital development, there are a lot of human capital development. Some MSMEs program, they take few of your employees and then they nurture their capital development in terms of skills. Maybe they do not have skills to operate a machinery, so they teach you how to operate a machinery skill. So what you need to know is, if you have the capital already but you do not have the skills yet, so you can send some of your employee to the MSMEs program to ask them to help with development of your human capital. So that is the way of human capital development. And then the third one is your market access. Some MSMEs program help you marketing your product, help you to do marketing of your product. For example, in Malaysia, we have MDEC. MDEC called for Malaysian Development Economic Corporations. What they do is they take your product, they put on their website, and then they market your product in their website. So they know that they already have a big sums of followers, so big sums of visitors on their websites. So this is how they do it. And then some of it is free. You just need to know where to look in the internet. Again, I express because I do not know a lot of MSMEs program in Somalia, but I will tell you it is almost the same around. This is how they are trying to do it. So you can ask for a market access instead of access to finance, you can ask them for another things that they provide. And then innovation and technology adoptions, these happen in, they have it in Penang also. It is a program where technology adoptions from Japan are given to a semiconductor industry in Penang for them to develop. So they do a reverse engineering based on the technology that they got from Japan. So basically they sell their second-hand technology because we are living in a third world country, Malaysia included. So normally developed countries such as Japan, United States, they would not sell their optimum
Malaysia should be the second world, I think.
technology.
Safi.
No, I think Malaysia is still in developing country.
Okay.
Because we are not moving anywhere at all at the moment. Based on my experience here in Malaysia. So from what I see, we still accepting second-hand technology and third-hand technology from Japan and United States instead of making our own technology. So this is the kind of things that I feel like what we can look at to see how MSMEs program can give you the adoptions of these innovations and technology that they can provide. And then the last one is infrastructure. Some MSMEs program provide you with factories. Some of them provide you with machine. So you don't even have to create your own machine. They provide you with machinery. So this is an example. The pictures beside it is an example, two of them example in Malaysia, SMA Corp in Malaysia, and Magic is a Malaysian Global Innovation and Creative Center, is also in Malaysia. However, the Islamic Development Bank is over in the Middle East. And if I'm not mistaken, based on my reading a few articles, ISDB also goes to Somalia, if I'm not mistaken.
You are
However,
right, yeah.
forgive me if I'm wrong, but that is
Yeah.
what I ISDP. All right. Okay. And then UNDP. However, UNDP do not give you access to financing. They might provide you with human capital development and some market access, but they do not give you money. So they give you skills instead. So that is where you can find it. So another example that I can show you, this is all in United States. I do not know most of them, but this is all in United States that I can find how the venture capitals company provide you with a little bit of financing, a little bit of skills development. These are basically how the what I call the pillars of ventures capital in the States.
You mean all
All
these they
right,
support
and
the
then we
SMEs?
move. Yes, all of these are venture capitals company, Abdul Kadir. So basically, they are companies that give you capital, but
Based on
take a
your
little bit
knowledge,
of your
are
share
they
of it.
internationally organized or based on local in
Uh,
UK?
some of them approach internationally,
Okay.
but I do not believe that most of them are doing so. But you need to visit each and every website because each of them are different. So they have different modus operandi. They have different objective of why they need to help you. So basically, you need to find out what kind of loophole do they have that caters to you. So based on my understanding, some of the company in India, if I'm not mistaken, have got this from Ventures Capital, and then now they are moving in Silicon Valley. I can't remember the name of the startup company, but they are doing it in the Silicon Valley, United States. But they are from India, so they approach these venture capitals for them to invest in their company, and then they move to United States. So this is part of the example that I know. However, in Malaysia, I do not know apart from Aerodome. Aerodome is one of the company that have been given, but it is from China. So China is the one who are giving the capital to Aerodome, and Aerodome are now moving to United States because they have the money from one of the companies in China. The one that I know of in Malaysia. Okay, so let's move on to the third topic, which is transformation. Before we talk about digital transformation, I would like to give you a brief. Maybe some of you knows about this already. So basically, industrial transformations or economic transform, or we can short it up to economic transformation. It comes from agriculture industry. So basically in Somalia, also in Malaysia also, we are starting out from agriculture industry. So we are using hard labor and we consume a lot of land. And then we are moving forward towards manufacturing industry. So in Malaysia, we are now stuck in number 2. That's why I said to Abdul Kadir, I'm not sure whether we're or not we are the second world country because we are still stuck on number 2, which is the manufacturing industry. We are still focusing on hard labor, but some of it got executive job scope, but we are focusing more on specific area. Malaysia do not yet goes to the third transformation, which is services industry. But Singapore already changed to services industry because we know Singapore is not a big country, so they need to change it fast. So the government helped them to change their industry to the servicing industry because we know that servicing industry you only need a small space. You get professional engineers, for example, in your company, in your innovation. You make a software development, you sell your software, so it is small and efficient, and you make a lot of profit because it is small and not cost effective. So it can it can accelerate the economy of the country. So that's why in the ASEAN countries, among the ASEAN countries here in the Southeast Asia, Singapore is number 1. Before this, Malaysia was located at number 2, but now Malaysia is number 6 out of all the ASEAN countries. So just imagine, because now we have political dispute and all these kind of things happen in Malaysia. So that is one of the things that are happening that we can see, and if we are a good entrepreneur, we can see where the opportunity lies so that we can gain from it and then try to make the world a better place from our innovations. So the third topic is about digital transformation. So this is the brief way that I can tell you how digital transformation can help an entrepreneur nowadays. Before
Hello,
this,
teacher.
when we talk about, yes,
Before you
hello,
before you are starting digital transformation, I would like ask
yes,
you two more questions.
okay,
Or
sure.
before you have done in the slides you are moving already. And first question is,
Mhm.
uh, what's the importance of society entrepreneurs, and also what's the importance of market readiness?
Again, what is the what?
What's the importance of society entrepreneurs, and also what's the importance of market readiness?
Important.
You mean
Abdul Kadir,
market
can you help me?
journalists? Hello, Abdullah.
Hello, teacher.
You said what?
How,
Can you come again?
what's the importance society entrepreneur, and also what's the importance of market readiness, like businessman is or business people? What's the role of importance you are society in entrepreneurs?
Okay, you mean what kind of benefits can entrepreneurs generate to the community? You mean that?
Or benefits towards the community?
Yeah, yeah. I think he mean what's the benefit of the entrepreneurial uh,
Oh, okay. The benefits of entrepreneurial towards the community will be answered in the fourth point, which is how we eradicate poverty from it. So I will tell you what is the benefits of entrepreneur towards the community and the society in the fourth chapters of today's webinar. So bear with me. I will tell you a bit later because we have not yet goes to it. I will be mentioning it again, and I will bring up the title of the benefits of towards the community. Is it okay, Abdul Kadir?
yeah, and to be informative
Yeah,
for
and
all the participants, the questions will be later on after the presentation. So let's have listen first, and then we'll ask them. Maybe he
Okay.
will give us
So
time.
we move on to the online versus offline, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about online versus offline, what can an entrepreneur benefit from it is, first, I give you an example. There are three examples here: bookkeeping and accounting, marketing and advertising, and as well as communications. So in bookkeeping and accounting, when you do offline, you do a single entry or a double entry ledger. So you are using an actual book in order to record your transactions. So it is a lengthy process, and it is highly non what do you call it is costly because you need to hire an accountant to do so, and then the time is slow and you need an office to do so. But if you change it into online, so digital transformations, you can use a single entry with generated report using a server instead. So meaning using computers, you can benefit the accounting from the computers. So this is one of the example. And the second example is marketing and advertising. We know that offline, when you do marketing offline, you need to go to newspaper, you need to go to television, you need to go to pamphlet, brochure, because this is not a cost benefit way to do marketing, because it varies on packaging, varies on package that have been shown by certain companies on how you want to do this kind of advertising. But if you switch it into online, you can use your social media, website, email blast. Some of them might have fees depending on what kind of ads, advertisement that you want, but most of them are free. And then lastly is communications. I can give you an example of this in the real world, where my company, I do not encourage my employees to go to the office. I said to them, if you can work at home, you can work at home. If you need to come to the office, you come to the office, because I like an online working environment. Because you know that when you do online working environment, you do not need to have a large office. So you just need a small office, and then you depends on your communication platform via emails. It is fast and you can do it everywhere. So when I travel to go to Singapore, for example, I had to travel to go to Thailand, for example, I can still communicate with my team. So that is how digital transformations are giving benefits to its entrepreneur nowadays. So let's move on to, because we have questions and answer afterwards, let's move on to the fourth chapter, which is the poverty, on how to eradicate poverty. So basically, when we wanted to talk about the role of entrepreneur and enterprises on poverty eradication, like what Abdullah asking right now, benefits towards the community, I personally wanted to tell you in regards to macroeconomy level, microeconomy level, and sustainable development goals that we have. So when we talk about macroeconomy level, meaning that how an entrepreneur can benefit the country, how can you as an entrepreneur benefit Somalia, for example? So the basic macroeconomic principle is GDP. So the gross domestic product is equals to the nominal GDP equation, meaning that C plus I plus G plus NX. C is private consumption, I is investment by businesses, and NX is net export, total export minus total import. Okay, so we just leave out NX for a bit because export and import is sometimes beyond the control of micro and small enterprises, but investment and private consumption is what entrepreneur can do, because an entrepreneur technically is also a purchaser or a consumer of certain product. So just imagine you make a product, but in order to make your product, you need to have raw materials. So where do you get your materials from? From another company. So basically, you already cover the private consumption here. However, when you wanted to make the product, you invest your money in it. So you already increase your investment by businesses. So when you increase the C and the I, automatically is going to benefit your country by increasing your GDP. So how it contributes to the society, how it contributes to small community is a microeconomic level. So in a microeconomic level, business to business have relationship to suppliers, which is another business. Let's say you want to make a water bottle. So you need to have plastics. So who is the supplier of your plastics? So maybe a recycle center that can provide you a recyclable plastics. So this is your suppliers and vendors that you can gather your raw materials from in order to provide or to make your product. And your product, you sell to your consumer, so you become a producer. So basically, you help each and every level of community to improvise their income, their individual income, their household income. For example, if you want to sell shirts, for example, you need threads. So you need to find someone who can make threads, and that someone need to find wool in order to make the threads from the wool. So they need to find a shepherd. So a shepherds provide them with wool, wool provided with thread contracts provided to you. You make shirts and you sell the shirts to the community. So basically, this is how the microeconomic work in the society, in the community, because you help each other in order to make everybody comfortable in the way your business complement each other. So last but not least, how we eradicate poverty from it? Because by increasing the amount spent from manufacturing and consuming, it creates a balance in the supply and demand graph. So when the balance of supply and demand graph is there, inflation is going to drop. So you're going to have a more lower price materials, lower price shirts, for example, or lower price cars, for example. This is how the supply chain and then the supply and demand graph works. And then you can promote synergy between businesses and corporates, as well as taxation helps the government to allocate funding for a new infrastructure for a new entrepreneur, for example. So it provides more job opportunities, so it can reduce poverty by increasing individual and household income. And at least 4 of the targets of SDG 1 can be achieved. However, I do not, I would like to emphasize on this thing is not going to happen in 1 or 2 months after you become an entrepreneur. It needs to take a lot of effort, and everybody need to join in, because when you join in together, you can help do better, not just for yourself, for your community, for your society, as well as for your country. So this is part of ways of how entrepreneurs can contribute to the world and can contribute to the society. So with that, I would like to thank you, and then I'll be receiving question and answers. So how are we going to do this? Abdul Kadir, are you going to
Kim will
help me with the question?
Kim will facilitate this.
Oh, Kim.
Yes. Well, thank
So
you.
yes,
That was can you hear me?
yes, I can hear.
Okay, fabulous. I really, really enjoyed your talk. I enjoyed your talk for several reasons. First of all, because you are an experienced entrepreneur. We really need to hear from experienced entrepreneurs. When you were talking, for example, about the executive summary, I was really impressed, because that is a very formal aspect of the business, which is creating the business plan. The executive summary comes first, but it's that you do last, because it's a collection of everything you have surmised for the potential investor. So I was really pleased that you sort of ticked off the very formal aspects of it. I like that you talked about networking. Networking is extremely important, particularly as a marketer. I'm always into networking. I'm doing my best always to network. I think it's really important. It's the reason Kadar and I are working together, as well as we're working with another gentleman from Bangladesh. We are networking still from our original collaboration, which was at USM. I really also, I've always believed that the entrepreneur is the creator of culture, because the entrepreneur person who creates the products, the innovations that fulfill the needs of the people. And then you have the marketplaces in which people meet together. So I do believe that the entrepreneur really has a lot to do with the creation, sustaining, as well as the moving forward of culture. So I just wanted to push that a little bit further. In response to the gentleman's question regarding how do we benefit countries or cities or economies, I think we are the driving force of the economy, as well as culture, even though that can be definitely debated 100%. And Another thing I wanted to say is when you said you like to have your people working at home, I really like that idea. I think it's
Yeah.
to work at home. And I think that's just something that COVID definitely did gift us with, was the
Yeah, yeah.
ability to work at home. Yeah. It's reduced in the city that I am in, for example, it reduced the traffic
In some
significantly.
way, COVID has come up with some benefits for the communities, for the labor market.
100%, Kadar, 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, do you provide financing for the internet or things like that for your employees? Is there a benefit to it, like a financial benefit, or is it just nice to work at home?
Yes, actually, it is part of allowances that we give in the remunerations of all of our executive. So we give them, we do not provide them with internet, but we give them allowance for them to purchase their own internet. So basically, we give part of the allowance to help them to get internet and for them to work at home. Because one of the things that I believe is not just COVID, because when I ask my staff, this is my true experience. When I ask my staff to come and work at the office, when they come at 9 a.m. in the morning and then later at 5 p.m. in the evening, they want to go back home, they make less work when they work at home. Because when they work at home, they can finish their work by 10 or 11 a.m. in the morning. So meaning that the work is much more faster because they are conducive. They can work a week a little bit later and then do their work, focusing on it and make sure they finish it up by the deadline. But when I ask them to go to the office, the deadline is always postponed. So that's why I see the benefits of working at home, so that I can give them a little bit motivations that as long as you reach the deadline, I don't care what kind of conditions do you work with. You work on your bedroom or your living room, it doesn't matter. Just finish it up by the deadline that's been given. So that's why my experience taught me.
I think it's a very excuse me, I think it's a really mature approach, Safi, to your staff, because you eliminate, are you late? Did you take too much time? You eliminate all of this sort of area where it could be a bone of contention with employees, and they can actually dislike you because you get mad at them when they're late, etc. So
Yes.
I think you eliminate an awful lot of aggression from your staff. If I would like to close with the point that I really took to heart, which is confidence. You have to start with confidence, with being an entrepreneur, and you have to walk all the way through your journey with confidence. So I really thank you very much for pointing that out. I think it's a really important point. And honestly, I enjoyed your webinar very much. And I hope you will be doing another one, because I would love to sit in on it. So thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And Kadar.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Is there any questions from other participants? So please feel free to ask.
Yeah, and I will ask you, the teacher, one more question. Uh, what are the challenges of entrepreneur, basically in the financial and access financial? When we are entrepreneurs, work, all of them workers, these are challenges in each other. So what's the challenge of the entrepreneurs, basically in the idea?
Okay. What's the financial challenges of the entrepreneurs that they can face? That's what they mean, I think.
Okay. All right. The financial challenges is a wide variety of financial challenges, actually. We understand that some challenges cannot be, we need to face them head on. Like my second point just now, which is confidence is what you need to take, because it is a risk-taking journey, because when you do not have money and then you wanted to create a product, you need to be careful in order to find the most trustworthy, good capital, venture capital company, or a company that can support you. So these are the main challenges. When you start up from 0 cents, you don't have any money at all, how can you make a product? So that is how you sell your ideas. You sell your ideas by being confident that say that your product will do well in the market. By in 3 years time, your product will do well in the market. So I believe that if you can give me a little bit of finance support, we can make this a reality. So I give you a quote example, like what Steve Jobs said to the Pepsi, the CEOs of Pepsi. When Steve Jobs wanted to build Apple, he do not have any money, and then he wants somebody who are very experienced in marketing as well as managing a big company. The CEO of Pepsi at that time, I can't remember his name, but he told him that, do you want to make carbonated drinks for the rest of your life, or do you want to change the world? So that is his speech, is the one who help him negates the challenges in terms of finance that he has at that time. So that is how he get investors to come in and invest in his product and make his product now $1 trillion company. So that is my answer to you. Financial challenges is always there, but you need to be confident of your product in order to navigate around the challenges. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Another
May I-
question.
Thank you, all right, and I understand.
Okay. Another question
Thank
is
you,
that.
all right, Tira.
Can I add, Kadar?
Okay. Welcome.
So when we're talking about the financial challenges, I think that one of the points also Safi had made earlier was an accountant. On a smaller scale, a bookkeeper. You really have to make sure your finances are in order, because if it's not your strong point, you will avoid it, and it's really important to keep on top of your finances.
Okay. 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 Another question is that.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah. Welcome. Yeah. You may have a question.
thank you. My teacher, I ask you one question. Uh, what is the skills that entrepreneur need to have?
Hmm. The basic skills that entrepreneurs, potential entrepreneurs, should have.
What basics? What?
Basic skills that potential
Okay.
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
From all the five basic skills that I give you just now, from all the 5 basic skills that I give you just now, the most important thing is for me personally, I would say the first one, which is your ideas and your ambition. Because if you do not have any ideas at all, and you do not driven by your ambitions, how can you be confident? How can you plan? And how can you utilize your network? And how can, lastly, you learn from your experience? So basically, the first most important thing is you need to have ideas. How to get an ideas? How to get ambitions? I tell you this. If you do not like to read books, go to YouTube and go and find videos that are videos of successful entrepreneurs, because this will burn your ambitions. Believe me, because for me myself, I like to read books. So I read a lot of biography books from Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, even Donald Trump books, and Mahathir books here in Malaysia. Why I read these kind of books is because I wanted to see how they think as an entrepreneur, and how it can illuminate me with ambitions and vision and mission. So here the most important thing is you need to have your ideas and ambitions. So you go and find your ideas and ambitions from talks, from books, from people that you admire, so that it can drive your ambitions to move
From
forward.
YouTube
That's
also.
all. YouTube, yes,
Okay.
of course.
Okay. Another question is that you have said a lot about friends and networks that potential entrepreneurs may have. So, can you say furthermore about that? What kind of benefits can my friends generate or contribute to my own business?
Okay. Uh, um, I give you an example of me myself,
Okay.
so that you have a general ideas of how networking works in entrepreneurships. When I started to establish KIFAYAH Ventures back in 2017, I do not have enough money at that time. So what I find is I find my partner, my business partner, who has the same ideas, or almost the same ideas of how to operate the business. And I said to him, why not we join our hands together and create a business so that we can move forward? And then he said, okay. So that is the first steps that I get. And then from that point, previously I worked as special officer to the Minister of International Trade and Industry. So during my work there, I've gained a little bit of connections and networking. So from there, I know which accounting firm are the best, which legal firm are the best that can help me in order to create a proper business plan. Although I do not include them as board of directors, but I ask for their expertise, like what Kim said just now. If you are not good enough in accounting, then you need to find somebody else who are good. So your friends and your network might have that. So from there, you can learn from them and then try to make your own way on how the accounting works. Because I'm not from accounting background at all, but I utilize this networking in order to understand at least the surface of it, so that other people cannot cheat me from below, so that I know how the business work, how the company works. So that is my example of how networking and friendship can indulge you in your entrepreneurship.
Okay. Okay. That's good.
Yes.
Kim,
Hello,
anything else you would like
my
to add?
name's Ahmed.
Ahmed,
Thank you,
welcome.
teacher. I want to ask you one question.
Okay,
Okay.
welcome.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
My question is the role of entrepreneur. The role of entrepreneur, the development of our country, Somalia.
What can entrepreneurs?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you understand the question.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ahmed. So the role of entrepreneur in Somalia. Okay, just imagine if you are in a village of 1,000 people or 2,000 people in a village, for example, when 10% of you or 20% of you have a business, have an entrepreneur, involved in entrepreneurships and creating your own company. So what it can provide is it can provide a small economic development in that village, one per se. But in the whole macro level, how it's going to develop your country is basically by promoting a higher GDP. Because in the world nowadays, countries' developments are marked. GDP is one of the factors that are marking your countries. So it is very important that the GDP of a country rise up in order to show that your country economic are blooming. So this comes from the help of the micro SME, from the MSME, from the small entrepreneur in the village. It helps them to generate income for every living household, maybe just 20% of the 2,000 people in the village involved in the business can help every single 2,000 people in the village on how you contributing factor. You can create job, you can create more employment. So you can ask people to work with you, you pay them. When they have money, they can purchase stuff. When they purchase stuff, it's automatically contribute towards the gross domestic profit. When it's contributed to the gross domestic profit, it shows that your country is becoming much more and more developed in terms of economic development. So that is how you can contribute to your country, how entrepreneur can contribute to your country.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Kim, anything else you would like to add before we close?
Hi everyone.
Hello, welcome.
I think
Second,
I
welcome,
think
please.
the
Um, yes, teacher. First of all, I'd like to thank to presenter, Mr. Muhammad, and sharing his ideas and knowledge according to the businesses and enterprises. So also, I'd like to thank to Ustad Abdul Qadir and his team for sharing this beautiful event. As we all know, we all know how much marketing is important for businesses and enterprises.
Yes.
So my question is, which is more important for marketing, physical marketing or what we know traditional marketing, or internet marketing or digital marketing to promote our product or increase our sales? So, Mr. Muhammad, I would like, as an market expert, I would like to um, give us your recommendation. Which one is useful for us to use? So, thank you.
Thank you. I will answer it a bit first. Perhaps Kim can add on onto marketing because she is from marketing herself. So my first answer, my first response to what is more important, either traditional marketing or internet marketing or using online marketing, I would say both of them are important. But if you wanted to prioritize, you need to know what your product is, because sometimes when you want to sell your product, your target market might be old people. For example, you sell a product for old people. So old people, they might not know how to use the internet. So it might probably not work if you do just an online marketing. So you need to focus more on traditional marketing. Back to what I said earlier, one of the skills is careful and also aware. So you need to be aware of what your product is, who is going to buy your product, who is going to who is going to be your client for your company. So if that person, you understand that person knows more involved in digital world, then online marketing is the best. But if that person beyond that level, maybe they are not into digital world, then a traditional kind of marketing might probably be the best idea. So this is how I would respond. But in general, online marketing is much more faster than a traditional marketing, to put in a general way. But again, it depends on who is your target market and who do you want to sell the product. So you need to sit back and understand your product, and then, okay, maybe I wanted to sell them to people who are maybe very, very good in digital, have a very, very well-known digital presence. Then you use online marketing to promote your product. But if you want your presence to be well-known to the world, then online marketing is the best. So maybe Kim can add on more about how the marketing works.
thank you, Safi. For me, it is imperative that you have an online presence, because online will establish you as a professional. It will also give you credibility. It will also give you a timeline. It will help you to develop your product or your blog or whatever you have on your site. And if I was going to create a product, I would immediately have an online site, so that, as I said, you can have a timeline. People will understand that you've been around since whatever year, and it allows you to also collect metrics. If you speak to someone, you can always give them a card with your website on it, or just promote your website pretty much on everything you do. I think that the website is most important for credibility, for being able to contact you, and as well as establishing yourself, as I say, as a professional. And I take Safi's point also, what he is saying about people who are perhaps not using the internet. But if I was starting a business, I would get online right away. I think that's one of the points that we had made originally when Kadar, and Nabil did the website building webinar, because we want you to get started as soon as possible. The website can be free, and it can allow you to hash out your ideas and to develop a profile. And I think if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you really need to do this. And if you don't become an entrepreneur, it's no big deal. You can get rid of the site later. But I think it's really important to establish yourself online. Thank you.
Okay, I think Dr. Fatima may have another question. Please welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Fatima Ismail Muhammad from Mogadishu, Somalia. No question. So, our lecture is very nice. Thank you, teacher. So, I understand very well the lecture. So, only comment or communication, I say thank you. The justice of the preparation in this team of the project or the select as team. So, all of them, good night and good afternoon. Thank you so much. Only I say.
You're welcome. Kim, you have the floor. So I think now we can close if there's any more question from other participants.
Teacher Abdul Qadir, my last question I'll ask to Teacher Muhammad. Uh, First, thank you, Teacher Muhammad, and also Director of Somali Institute, South. My last question is that what will you recommend in the young entrepreneurs and basically around the world, especially the entrepreneurs in Somalia, and in your own experience? Thank you.
Okay. Safi, you have the answer.
How is it?
He said, "What is your
How is it,
recommendation?
Jason?
What's your recommendation to the potential entrepreneurs from the Somalia local entrepreneurs?"
Oh, okay. Okay. I do not have any recommendations, but I do have expectations. After this webinar is ended, at least maybe some of you, maybe all of you, can have a general idea. You might not even start the entrepreneurship now, but what my expectation is that you have the general ideas of what you wanted to do in the next 5 to 10 years. Because for me, it is very important you plan ahead, not just an entrepreneur, but as a human being also, because you need to know what you wanted to give back to the society, to give back to the people, to give back to the planet, for example. So what are you going to do? So what I hope, my expectation is simply that you utilize at least a bit of what I've shared to you today, maybe not all. If you understand a bit, you utilize it, make it your ambition, drive yourself forward. So because my motto is always keep moving forward. The past is always there, but the future is what interesting. It was interest me a lot because I believe that if every single one of us, I always give this kind of final talk in every single webinar that I've been through, especially with young people. I believe that we the younger generations, maybe younger than me, are the one who are going to pioneer the world one day. So if each and every one of us have a very good and general ideas of what we wanted to do, we can become even more than just an entrepreneur. We can become the innovator. We can become somebody who creates something for the benefits of other people around the world. So that is what my expectation is. And if just now, like Kim said, an online presence is very important. You can see my LinkedIn ID over there. So you can take my LinkedIn ID, or you can email me if you want anything, any sharing, or you want to share something to me. I am always open because I like to read emails. I like to communicate with other people because I believe that if we are doing this all together for the betterment of the world, we will live in a peaceful and harmonious world moving forward. I think that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Safi. Really, as I said, I enjoyed the webinar so much. As I said, your point about the confidence, I think my point about having an online presence, the idea of getting started, I think the idea of being together in webinars such as this is really important because we create energy. And I think my being in Canada, Safi in Malaysia, and most of you in Somalia, I think it's really important that we do create peaceful conversations and peaceful ideas with each other that can benefit our economy. Thank you again, Safi. Thank you, Hadar, very, very much for sponsoring this yet again. And I would like to say thank you and goodbye.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. And for me, it's good night.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Everyone
Good
can
afternoon.
close and go.